This is going to be a little history of the Widow Clicquot, aka Veuve Clicquot, or Veuve if you just really have to pronounce it correctly. I prefer Veuve because Veuve, I don't know. Barbe Nicole Ponsardin was born on December 16, 1771 in the Champagne region of France. She was born to a wealthy family, her father being Baron Nicolas Ponsardin, and they made their money through textiles. She attended school in the city's royal abbey, the Saint-Pierre-les-Dames. Now all of this sounds great, the whole growing up rich. Unfortunately, it was during the French Revolution, whenever political power is the last thing you wanted to be associated with. So the working class was sticking it to the man, and it was only a matter of time before the daughters of the city's social elite became targets. Her parents would not have this. To get her to safety, they sent their remarkably brave family dressmaker with some peasants' clothes all the way to the royal abbey through the angry mobs, and she took 11-year-old Barbe Nicole back to her little apartment above her dressmaking shop, where she was going to live a pretty much invisible life until it was safe. And that's what she did. She lived a quiet, unexceptional life until 1798, when she married Francois Clicquot, son to the founder of Maison Clicquot, at just 21 years old. Their marriage was a political move for her father because he was trying to stay in favor of the revolutionaries or the working class, but they both ended up having a passion for champagne, so it worked out. Well, until 1805, whenever he unfortunately passed away without ever achieving much success at all, because they were trying to export champagne and the Napoleonic Wars had a block on all exports. So there she was, a widowed Clicquot. Veuve Clicquot. Veuve means widow. Okay. So she goes to her stepfather and asks for her entire inheritance up front so she can try running the business by herself. Keep in mind, this is a time when women didn't run, own, vote, they didn't do anything. She did this with one condition, that she would apprentice under Alexandre Jerome Fourneau for a few years while she kind of got the hang of it. In their first year of working together, they negotiated the sale of 50,000 bottles, the equivalent to a $3 million deal. Of course, it was to be delivered through military blockades and constricted trade routes, so it didn't go very well. But being a woman with a lot of solutions, she came up with the idea of sending everything as contraband in plain boxes that had nothing to do with France. These bottles actually did make it to their port of call, which was Amsterdam. There was still a lot of risk involved though, because this is their entire inventory on a ship that could sink, in weather that could change, and if weather changes, all of the champagne could explode. So, lots of risk involved in all of these decisions. But it completely worked out, because in 1815, whenever the war ended, her champagne was already there, just right over the border into Russia. She beat all of the competition by weeks. Not long after that, the Tsar of Russia announced that Veuve Clicquot was the only wine he would drink. Word of his preference, of course, spread all around Russia and the world. Now with her business firmly established, she started focusing on the wine itself. And this is where she did some pretty revolutionary shit. So at this time, all champagne was cloudy, every single bottle ever made. Because basically, champagne's made with two fermentations, the first one in barrel and the second one in bottle. The process of fermentation is yeast eating sugar to make alcohol. Well, whenever the alcohol reaches a certain percentage, the yeast actually dies, and that leaves dead yeast cells in the wine, which makes it all cloudy. This cloudy wine was not good enough for her. She took her dining room table, put it on its side, drilled some holes in it, put the bottles in like this, and then over time she would turn it upside down, upside down, upside down, to where all of the yeast would be kind of collected in the top. She would take it out, pop the top, put a little bit more champagne, and then cork it, and you have clear champagne. This allowed her to surpass all other producers in both volume and quality. You cannot often do both. Just a woman and her dining room table invented that. And if solving international trade and improving the quality of all champagne isn't enough for you, she was also the first one to put a colorful label on the bottle to make it more of a luxury. And that is the story of the Grande Dame of Champagne. Cheers. And this is a little excerpt from a letter to a grandchild from later in her life. The world is in perpetual motion, and we must invent the things of tomorrow. One must go before others. Be determined and exacting, and let your intelligence direct your life. Act with audacity.